This episode is brought to you by my friend Rebecca Walser, a financial expert who can help you protect your wealth. Book your free call with her team by going to friendofdinesh.com. That's friendofdinesh.com. Now, coming up, Debbie's going to join me. We're going to talk about a bunch of issues, including Brittney Griner. Is she a freedom fighter, as Time magazine suggests? We're going to talk about the verdict in her drug case. Gianna Jessen joins me. She is an abortion survivor. She's going to share her riveting story about how she ended up with cerebral palsy and a bunch of other ailments because her mom unsuccessfully tried to abort her. And I'll discuss the role of the in the Iliad of compare and contrast Hector and Achilles, the one representing humanity and the other, to a degree, inhumanity. This is the Dinesh D'Souza Show.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza Podcast.
Hey guys, this is a good day. Debbie and I like at the end of the week to do kind of a little bit of a week roundup. And but I noticed that this morning we have sort of complementary outfits. I've got a little streak of orange here, and you check out my FJB.
FJB? I was like, what's FJB?
Well, the culprit here is actually my daughter Danielle. She has created for me a merchandise store. Now, I'm not smart enough to do this, but it's shop.dineshD'Souza.com. And it has all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, it has t-shirts, it has mugs, it has hoodies. But I love these polo type shirts.
Yeah, those are really nice. I hadn't seen any polos.
No, they've got a bunch of them now. And I think what's funny about this shirt is it's kind of elegant as a shirt, but the message is downright savage.
It's really kind of funny, actually. It's hilarious.
So this is a way for you to send a message while still, looking good, looking elegant, and looking cool.
Yeah.
Well, somebody who's very uncool, but the left is trying to make cool. Brittney Griner. They keep calling her a the WNBA, the
women's
or the
NBA.
WBA maybe is what
NBA.
it is.
I think she's a basketball player. No.
Right. She's
so it's WNBA.
They keep calling her a WNBA star. Even though no one's really heard of her. But nevertheless, here on Time magazine, on the cover, Brittney Griner and the fight for freedom. Now, what's the fight for freedom? She's been arrested in Russia for illegal drugs. And, I know when it comes to my own case, people love to go, well, you pleaded guilty, didn't you? So, what are you complaining about? You obviously deserve whatever penalty they gave you, even if they locked you up for 10 years because you pleaded guilty. Well, Brittney Griner got 9 years or 9.5 years. Well, you know what? She pleaded guilty.
Uh-oh.
So, what's there to feel bad about?
Yeah. Well, she probably gets treated better in prison than the January 6th defendants do.
Well, you're making a profound point here, which is this. If this had happened 20 years ago, my reaction would have gone something like this. I would have said, Brittney Griner needs to learn how great it is to live in America. When you're in some other country like Russia, you're not going to get due process, So, here's a woman who's been taking a knee and sort of, all these critiques of the founders and of America. Well, you know what? America's not so bad after all. That would have been my reaction. But this was actually not my reaction. With this case, my reaction was, frankly, they're trying to get me to be outraged. They're trying to get me to care. I don't care. My reaction to this is basically snore. Zzz. Why? Because this is happening and far worse in our own country. There are people who have peacefully protested at the Capitol. They're facing, Guy Reffitt just got 7 years. He didn't even go in the Capitol. So you've got abuses of law occurring in the United States, and frankly, I'm not in no way outraged by what happened to.
It used to be that anytime we had political prisoners or prisoners in other countries, with no due process, it was kind of an outrage. But we have them in our own country. So we really cannot be that outraged, because until we fix the problem here, we can't really be telling Russia or China or anybody else what to do with their justice system, because look at ours.
Well, I think what happened in the case of Brittney Griner is this. Number one, there are Americans who don't think that other countries' laws need to be followed, and they do.
Apply to them.
Apply to them. It's kind of like,
right.
I'm an American,
That's
so if
right.
I'm in Thailand, I have drugs. No, I don't need to be charged the way the Thai people are. But the truth of it is, when foreigners come to our country, they're under our laws. And if they break our laws, we treat them as lawbreakers the same as American citizens. The other point is that I think what happened with Brittney Griner, she's entitled. You know, she's black, she's a lesbian, so she has a sense in America that she can do whatever she wants. She's above the law. And she goes to Russia and she discovers that other people don't see it that way,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
So
Well, I mean, I don't think it would really matter what she looked like or was. If she had the goods, she's going to go to prison in Russia.
And it's interesting, even now, the preferred status of Brittney Griner, because the U.S. State Department is working on the case. Biden has offered to exchange Brittney Griner for some Russian, convict. And so she's getting special treatment as it is. Think of it. There are lots of other people, Americans abroad. Think of the Americans left behind in Afghanistan. What efforts has the U.S. government made to go get all of them?
Look at the Venezuelan Marine that is in a Venezuelan prison right now, dying. Where's the government?
Look at the Sitco 6.
Where's Time Magazine with his cover?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, hey.
So basically, the fight for freedom only applies to the left. The criminals of the left are made into cult heroes. That's what's going on.
That's right.
And part of our job is not to fall for it. I notice that even Republicans. I just saw a couple of Republican senators and congressmen about the treatment of Brittney Griner is unacceptable and so on. Blah blah blah. It's not unacceptable. I wish you had spent some time focusing on the political prisoners in our country. These are people who are exercising legitimate political protest. Yeah, but they went inside the Capitol. So what? What if some leftist goes inside the Capitol? What happens to them? Nothing. Nothing at all. Michael Lindell is such a creative guy, always coming up with new stuff. But his latest, kind of unexpected, to me at least, coffee. My Pillow coffee. Now, you don't get it on My Pillow, you get it on my store. It's called mystore.com, and to get the discounts, you need to use promo code Dinesh. But here's Mike in his own words talking about his coffee.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm excited to announce my new product, My Coffee. I get products all the time from entrepreneurs for my new platform, mystore.com. And when I tried My Coffee for the first time, I was blown away. It is the best coffee I've ever had in my life. I spent the last 4 months doing my due diligence, and this family-owned business micromanages every step from the fields to the cup to ensure the best quality coffee you're ever going to have. It starts with the beans that are grown in Honduras. Honduras's volcanic soil and humid climate make the perfect growing conditions for coffee plants, which produce the best beans ever. Then each batch is tested for its aroma, taste, and other aspects to meet the highest standards in the coffee industry. And after that, it goes into production, which is all done right here in the USA. It's like you're getting that small batch specialty coffee, but delivered right to your front door. So go to mystore.com or call the number on your screen. Use the promo code and you'll get your very own My Coffee for 25% off. You guys all know that I've traveled the country for the past year and a half. I've stayed in hundreds of hotels. I've tried every coffee out there. Well, some of the coffees have that terrible aftertaste, some that leave me jittery, or I get an upset stomach. Well, My Coffee is different. It's the richest, smoothest, best coffee I've ever had. My Coffee comes in a variety of flavors. You get them ground or whole bean. Plus, it's certified organic and non-GMO. I guarantee it'll be the best coffee you've ever had. So go to mystore.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code and you'll get My Coffee for 25% off. And I'm going to give you deep discounts on all my store products. That's mystore.com. It's my new platform for USA entrepreneurs. Please order now.
There's still some ongoing fallout from Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan. Now, I think, honey, I mean, this trip has been from the beginning a mystery, right?
Strange.
Kind of strange.
I mean, it's like, what is she doing? It's so out of character for this woman to do something like this. So, what did I say? What's in it for her?
Right. Debbie's point over in the morning when she's telling me, she goes, listen, if Nancy Pelosi goes to Taiwan, you can ignore all her stated, Taiwan is a valuable ally. We need to be with Taiwan. The Democrats, you made the point, you're like, they never act out of philanthropic motives. Never. And they certainly don't act out of the motive of protecting the interests of the United States.
Never.
In fact, subverting those interests is kind of their mission.
Always.
So Pelosi must have another motive. Now, we don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be...
We don't know. Maybe a little bit of a case of whiskey or something? I don't know.
Well, I mean, could it be that she has a big Taiwanese donor in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Now, if this was Hillary Clinton, we would know the motive.
Yeah.
And that is some major Taiwanese company is providing massive kickbacks to the Clinton Foundation.
Or
Biden. We'd be looking for, let's look at Hunter Biden's laptop. When was he last in Taiwan? How much money changed? How much is going to the big guy? So we know all that. Now, the Chinese have escalated their military exercises over Taiwan.
Yeah.
And so clearly the Chinese are treating this pretty seriously. I think it's because the Chinese kind of thought they had Biden where they wanted him. They feel like, this is almost like they feel like they own Biden. Mm-hmm. And so Biden's going to behave and he's going to keep Pelosi in line.
But I don't think Pelosi went as a form of aggression to China because she's beholden to China as well. So I don't really, that's why it's so mysterious, because she doesn't usually do anything like this, and we do know that she likes China. Remember when right before the virus, you can't call it the Chinese virus, and you have to go to Chinatown and do.
I remember all that. Yes.
So she is very much China oriented, which is what makes it even.
Well, I mean, there's a huge Chinese population in San Francisco, and so that's certainly true. But I think the point, looking at this in terms of just sort of national interest and realpolitik, sometimes countries will do things that provoke the ire of another country, and there's some instability that results from that, but you do it because it's the right thing to do. The problem here is why are we sort of creating international instability over Nancy Pelosi's travel schedule? What is she getting out of this trip? Mm-hmm. As far as we can see, nothing. So
very strange. Well, time will tell, right? What it was all about and what she, what she went for and how China is gonna. Because really, truly, I think that China wants Taiwan, and I think they know that they have a very limited time until they can no longer do it. And
while Biden's in office?
While Biden's in office, or even the midterms, even the November midterms, because Biden's not going to be able to do what he wants once that happens.
Well, he still have a lot of latitude in foreign policy. Let's remember the president is the commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
He operates pretty much without...
So they may be looking at it in terms of 24, right? So they're going to do it between now and 24. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I think the other thing that's going on is that the United States has acted because it has been the world's sole superpower now since the collapse of the Soviet Union, since 1992, so really for 30 years. And I think what the Chinese are saying is sort of not so fast. It's like we're watching the show Prehistoric Planet, and they'll talk about the old dinosaur that's ruled the roost. But the old dinosaur is eventually confronted by a younger, strong dinosaur who's like, I'm going to challenge you for your superiority in this kind of herd. That's what's going on here. The Chinese are like, you know what? You may think we're the small guy, but we're not really the small guy anymore. And your economy is very dependent on ours. And your military is not as superior to ours as it once was, let alone with all the woke innovations that you're introducing. Ha, ha, ha. So I think the Chinese are pushing. It's the young dinosaur pushing at the older dinosaur and basically saying, move back. And like you say, they know they can do it easier when the old dinosaur is named Joe Biden.
And half asleep.
and the old dinosaur is napping. He's taking his winter slumber.
Yep.
And his brain cells have basically gone to rust. So it's kind of a sorry picture that we're seeing. As I said yesterday on the podcast, the Chinese today are acting far more like a superpower than we are. Some of us wish we could rewind the clock when it comes to our health. Exercising, climbing stairs, all the things young people take for granted. These aren't things that have to stop just because you age. Neither do you have to suffer the normal aging aches and pains. Why? Because now there's a 100% drug-free solution. It's called Relief Factor. Relief Factor supports your body's fight against inflammation. That's the source of aches and pains. Now, the vast majority of people who try Relief Factor love it. They order more. It works for them. Debbie's a true believer. She finally gets to do her bar exercise class now that she's alleviated her frozen shoulder thanks to Relief Factor. Debbie's like, wow, I can even do planks, I can do push-ups. So she's like, I don't want to be without this again. You too can benefit. Try it for yourself. Order the 3-week quick start for the discounted price of just $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com or call 833-690-7246 to find out more about this offer. That number again, 833-690-7246, or go to relieffactor.com. Feel the difference. It's very interesting, but in the abortion debate, we've seen a kind of shift in the rhetoric of the Democrats and of the left. Suddenly we find that they're talking a lot about ectopic pregnancies. They're talking about miscarriages. They're making it seem like the abortion debate is not about abortion. It's not about, killing your kid who's in the process of being born. Rather, it is about these other things. Now, we talked, I guess last week it was, about the ectopic pregnancy, but you saw an article in the New York Times about miscarriage and abortion, equating the two.
Yeah, and I think I've talked about this before, but I was actually a pro-choice. I wouldn't say I was a pro-abortion advocate, but I was a pro-choice person in college, high school, college, really up until I suffered a miscarriage in 1994 at the age of 28. I was really excited. I was, finally pregnant, and I had a miscarriage at about 7 weeks or so. And so I instinctively became a pro-lifer at that point, because I understood the line between my body and my baby's body really more than I ever had before. And so when I saw this article about why do we talk about miscarriage differently from abortion, I just about flipped over the chair. I couldn't believe it. And then when I started reading further,
read a couple of lines from the article.
So it says, the line between abortion and pregnancy loss has always been blurry. Really? Really? And then it gets better.
Let's read this.
Pregnancy loss and abortion have more in common than many people realize. The physical experiences are often virtually identical. Early abortion with medication mimics the experience of miscarriage, and early miscarriage care often involves some drugs or procedures used for an abortion. I mean, what?
Well, let's pause and highlight the critical difference that is being blurred over here. The critical difference, of course, is the same difference as somebody who is, let's say, killed by an accident or killed by a disease, killed by some factor that's outside your control.
Or as I just told you, it's like pushing Grandpa down the stairs versus him having a heart attack.
Right.
In both cases, Grandpa ends up being dead. But in one case, well, it's not really his own choosing.
So imagine the murderer going before court and saying, you know what? This experience of Grandpa bouncing down the stairs as a result of me pushing him, it mimics the experience of grandpa having a heart attack. In both cases, you feel a constriction, a sense of pain. In both cases, you feel the life ebbing away from you. So why are people making this radical separation between, right? I mean, this is really the heart of the matter.
It's really sad. Of course, we never would do that to grandpa, but you know what we're getting at here. But it's just, it also, they also go on to say abortion and miscarriage are both common. That's also very strange. They would even put that in there.
It's a very offensive.
And it is, and they go on to even say that in the old times that women were seen, even if women lost babies via miscarriage or abortion, they were seen as heroines because they were making sure that they had enough to be able to feed the children that they already had, and so that they were limiting the amount of children that they
well, that's another massive diversion, because even in that case, and these would be extreme cases of people in survival societies where I have 3 kids, I can't feed the 4th one. Look, even there, what you have is that difficult trading of one life for another. That's not the case today. Today, no one is saying, listen, I cannot have another child because there is no way to provide food for my existing children. Nonsense. Put the child up for adoption. There are people who will feed it. They will look after it.
But they also talk about reproductive justice, and they're saying that women of color and minorities, they get put into this box where even if they have a miscarriage or an abortion, they're looked at the same way. And I was like, no, they're not. I mean, really, when you have a pregnancy loss, that is not your choice. That is basically human, Mother Nature saying this baby is not going to be born whole, or there are, maybe chromosomal or something wrong with the baby. And I always say it was God's will that I didn't have this baby in 1994. I ended up having one in 1995. But
so the key difference is really in the intention of the mother, and more importantly, in the case of a miscarriage, the mother, and this was you, wants the child. The mother is actually doing everything it can to see this child born, and you feel a sense of loss.
Yes, and so that too, they're saying that in both instances, whether you have an abortion or a miscarriage, you feel the sense of loss. Well, yeah, and I thought they said it was a clump of cells. Hello.
Right, the sense of loss in the second case is that it's the sense of loss you created. It's like if you kill a family member. I feel a sense of loss. My brother's no longer with us.
Right.
Yeah, the sense of loss is because of you, the perpetrator. Right. You are responsible for that. And then whining about your own sense of loss when you've deprived somebody else of life is a bit rich.
And this last paragraph here, many people experience abortion, pregnancy loss, and the birth of a living child in one lifetime. The post-Roe abortion rights narrative should embrace this reality. I mean, these people are just nuts. I mean, they really are. And it's I think that, when you have Gianna next, you're going to see, I actually listened to her talk many years ago. It was probably 2009 or 2010.
This is Gianna Jessen who's coming on right after this.
You're going to talk to her. Her story was phenomenal, made me cry. I know that you're going to have that sense of just, she's just an incredible person. And I'm really glad that you have her on the podcast.
Inflation is real. The CPI is at another 40-year high. Biden and his team keep denying it, but inflation doesn't go away because you deny or minimize it. The recession, too, is real. Again, they're denying it, and again, a recession doesn't stop being a recession if you stop calling it a recession. Now, if all your money's in the market or tied to the US dollar, you're taking a big risk. You're messing with fire. Now, thankfully, I'm diversified into gold with Birch Gold. It's not too late for you to take some action, too. Text Dinesh to 989898. Get a free information kit on how to diversify and protect your savings with precious metals. Now, with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, thousands of satisfied customers, Birch Gold is the place to be. Debbie and I trust Birch Gold. We're happy customers, so join us. Secure your future with gold from Birch Gold now. now. How do you do that? Text Dinesh to 989898. Get real help from Birch Gold today. Your free, no obligation information kit on how to protect your hard-earned savings with gold. Text Dinesh to 989898. Guys, I'm really pleased to welcome to the podcast someone who's a kind of a heroine of mine. Her name is Gianna Jessen, and she is I think the right phrase is an abortion survivor. She has an amazing story, which I encountered on social media a couple of years ago. I've posted it more than once. In fact, I just put it on my locals channel for people to check out. Really the most powerful pro-life testimony I've ever heard someone deliver in person. She's now a recognized pro-life advocate, a speaker, a writer, and also, well, Gianna, I didn't know this, a singer. You can follow her at giannajessen.com. And she's also both on Twitter and on Truth Social, and her tag is at Gianna Jessen. That's 2 N's for Gianna and 2 S's for Jessen. Hey, Gianna.
And also on Facebook.
Oh, you're also on Facebook. Gianna, what a pleasure.
They haven't kicked me off yet.
Well, that may be coming. I think your testimony is so powerful. And you know, the clip that I posted is of you giving a speech. Now, you appear to be in a church setting, but it's clear that give me an idea of where you were speaking in that talk.
It was in 2008. It was such a wild day, and it was in the Parliament, in the Australian Parliament building, and I had no idea what I was going to say, because I'm a Christian, and I pray and I study when I'm not traveling to grow and to learn. But when I speak, I pray and I ask the Lord what to say. And that is what I did that day. And I was speaking to all kinds of members of parliament and all kinds of people from all different walks of life. And just before they came in, it didn't look like anyone was going to come. And I was so happy, because I was telling the Lord, I have no idea what I'm doing. You haven't shown me what to say. And this was to give context at the end of a 2-week trip where I was going through the parliament and through to all the MPs' offices, saying, this is what the truth is. This is what you need to hear. And I'll never forget this man, very highly educated at Oxford. And I just walked in very much myself, nothing to prove. And I just said, this is what I'm here to tell you. But sir, you are born to defend women and children, not to stand idly by while they are being killed. And he began to cry. And he said, you know, it's been 30 years since someone has walked into my office and said anything like that to me at all. And I just remember those moments. So this was at the end. That speech was the culmination, because they were going to remove all restrictions on abortion in Victoria. And they totally ignored everything I had to say and did what they wanted to do anyway. But that's what it was. And I had no idea that I didn't even post it online. I did nothing with it. Someone else did. And so the Lord cannot be stopped.
Well, what's remarkable is not only the content of what you said, but it was also, you can kind of see the faces and the reaction of people in the audience. And you can also tell that this is not a church audience. This is not an audience of people who are already not a pro-life audience, so to speak. And the sheer kind of astonishment on their faces is really what I think is remarkable. So let's get into it, Gianna. I want people to hear from you your story, because I think it is such a stunning example to people and an eye-opener on an issue that continues to roil the United States. As you know, the important Supreme Court decision, we're in a little bit of a new environment. People now have to take responsibility themselves for this issue. So let them hear from you the Gianna story.
Well, I also want to say to anyone listening before they hear this, that if you've had an abortion, if you've encouraged an abortion, if you've paid for an abortion, whatever you've done, I'm not here to condemn you. I can only tell you that you can only be made free through Christ. So I want you to know that I'm not condemning as you listen to me. So I was born alive in an abortion clinic by the power of Christ. My medical records, I love what they say. They say my name, and then it says born during saline abortion, April the 6th, 1977, 6 a.m., 29 and a half weeks, 2.5 pounds. My favorite part, no resuscitation required upon arrival at the hospital. Because I was born in the abortion clinic, 6 a.m. Now, that defies science, it defies logic. Why would I not need resuscitation unless the Lord was with me in the fire and delivering me and carrying me as he does to the present day? So because I was born, she went to Planned Parenthood, my biological mother, at 17 years old. And they said, you're too young to have a baby. You need to go have this saline abortion, which burns a baby inside and out. And then she's to deliver a dead baby in this particular procedure within 24 hours. Except I was born alive at 18 hours. You can imagine 18 hours. My skin should be completely charred and burned. I should be blind. I should be dead. I shouldn't be able to sing. Nothing about me should be, but it is. And so
Gianna, not to interrupt you, I want you to go into this in some detail. So let's take a pause, and when we come back, the continuation of the Gianna Jessen story. You notice it's pretty colorful at the grocery store in the produce section, the green, the red, the yellow, all those vibrant colors of fruits and veggies. Well, our friend Dr. Howard at Balance of Nature says, hey guys, those colors you see represent nutritional variety. Now, I don't eat anywhere near the 10 daily servings of fruits and veggies, so Balance of Nature, that's the way I ensure I give my body what it needs to stay healthy. Debbie and I take these 6 little fruits and veggie capsules every day. Each daily dose is made up of a blend of 31 different fruits and veggies. 31, so variety equals vitality. Give your body what it needs with Balance of Nature. Invest in your health. Join me and experience the Balance of Nature difference for yourself for years to come. For a limited time, all new preferred customers get an additional 35% discount and free shipping on your first Balance of Nature order. Use discount code AMERICA. Call 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751, or go to balanceofnature.com and use discount code AMERICA. I'm back with pro-life advocate and abortion survivor Gianna Jessen. You can follow her at Twitter, Truth Social, Facebook, at Gianna Jessen. You can also go to her website, giannajessen.com. Gianna, we're following your amazing story. Your mom goes to Planned Parenthood. You were supposed to be killed off in a saline abortion, but you survive. How did you survive? And you didn't survive unscathed. I mean, your skin isn't burned, but you do have disabilities that are the result of that. So let's talk about that.
Well, the nurse called the ambulance and had me transferred to a hospital, saving my life. Thank you, Jesus. Because had the abortionist been at work, he would have ended my life with strangulation, suffocation, or leaving me there to die, throwing me in a trash can. This is what we do to our children who survive abortions. But he wasn't able to do that because of this nurse. So I was taken to that hospital, and every doctor said, there's no way this baby girl's going to live. Then after several months of not dying, they concluded, this baby girl has a tremendous will to live. She doesn't want to die. Then I was eventually placed in emergency foster care. That didn't go so well. I was placed in another foster home of a wonderful woman by the name of Penny. So when she took me in, I was 17 months old, highly traumatized, and I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, caused directly by a lack of oxygen to my brain while I was surviving an abortion. So I would not be disabled had I not survived an abortion, but you can imagine how I feel when I hear the argument, if the baby is disabled, we need to terminate the pregnancy. A few points on that. Number one, who does that sound like? Adolf Hitler. And who are you, healthy person, to determine for me what my quality of life is? If you hear that, you hear the argument, I wouldn't want to live like that. I just wouldn't want to live like that. That is so evil. Let me tell you this, sir, and everyone listening. You have no idea the kind of quality of life that you have when you actually have a need for Christ to help you walk across a room. When you slam your body so hard into the ground that the reverberation goes through your whole body, and yet there is the presence of God keeping every one of your bones. When you are still rejected because of how you were born, and yet Christ never leaves you. There is no greater quality of life than a need for Christ, because his power rests on you in your weakness. Do you know nobody wants to hear about Jesus anymore? But they'll listen when I walk up to them and say, I have a balance issue. Can I please have your arm? So tell me what is so horrible about such a journey. One day my legs will be unbound, but in the meantime, they will act as a net to be a fisher of men. And I bless the Lord to be able to limp all the way to heaven, leaning on his strong arm and his strength alone. And so I never died, to their great surprise.
I mean, the amazing thing, Gianna, is that it almost seems, one is there are so many ways in which you were harmed by this attempted abortion. It's almost like an attempted murder that wasn't, that didn't go all the way to fruition, so to speak. And yet what you have done, which is to me morally astonishing, is that you have converted your disability and pain. Right before the podcast, you told me you feel like you've been hit by a truck, right? Yeah. So you feel this every day, and yet you are triumphant in this experience because you have, in a sense, made it a cord that binds you to Christ.
Yes. How can I be ashamed of the God who went to such great lengths to save me both physically and spiritually? There's nothing else to live for. I could have all of the accolades. I could have all of the I could be highly educated. What doesn't matter at the end of the day? I'm gonna die, and what I did for Christ here is the only thing that's going to matter. And I have to say, it's challenging, because when you have a story, because we are very much geared this way, particularly in our culture, then you have meaning. So I've had to work through ego-wise and everything else. Where is my identity? Because people are fickle as well. And sometimes when people turn against you, I think that is one of the greatest gifts, because you learn, yes, this isn't my identity. I am just as important whether this happened to me or not. Either way, it's not to be about me. So I just want to be able to have a pure heart here and speak plainly to people. And so anyway, I want to tell you too, I've forgiven my biological mother. I think it's important for people to know that. And bitterness will take the life that you've been given. And so I don't know. Do you want to say something else?
Let's take a pause. When we come back, I'd like to talk to Gianna about the pro-life movement and about the road ahead.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land. Surrounded by like-minded travelers, picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of Scripture. Join Dr. Sebastian Gorka and Dinesh D'Souza on this life-enriching Israel tour, November 30th through December 9th, 2022. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
I'm back with Gianna Jessen, abortion survivor, pro-life advocate. You can go to her website, which is Gianna, Gianna, Jessen, JESSEN.com. And I remember, Gianna, thinking back to that presentation that you made to the Australian Parliament, just having a very complex range of emotions, because I felt, sadness and outrage, but I also felt pity, but I also felt that sense of triumph, and you've been giving us a hint of that here. Talk about, as someone who's sort of, been through fire like that, How does it shape your life now? Is it something that continues to define who you are? Is it something you feel like you want to go beyond? And also talk about your life in the pro-life movement.
Can you clarify for me what you mean in terms of it? Terms of...
I think what I mean by it is that sometimes when someone has a traumatic experience, let's say they're an orphan, or let's say, for example, they came through a war zone, right? The rest of their life becomes defined by that. That becomes their story. That's who they are. They're a wartime survivor. But there are other people who sometimes go, yeah, that was my background. That was my life. But I now need to move into something different. And I'm just trying to find out how you think about your life.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do have that complex sort of battle, because there is this thing that is monumental, and there are those, even myself at times, that's sort of the easier sort of box to fit in, and it's very, to put it simply, it works. You know, you have a story, you have meaning, but there's so much to me. I'm incredibly creative. I have a very gorgeous brain, and I think so differently. And I have been trying for years. Okay, Lord, there's so much more in me. Help me get to it, because it's almost like sometimes if you stay here, then you're trying to put on clothes that no longer fit. You know, you're just staying there out of fear of not mattering anymore, and that goes back to ego and things like that. So I don't want to do that. As far as the pro-life movement, I have mixed feelings. So I'll just ask you to be more specific, so I don't go off on my own tangent.
Well, I have noticed, and I don't think there's any problem in you speaking candidly about this. What I want to get at is, I notice you've had a sort of ambivalent relationship to the pro-life movement. You're in some ways obviously a pro-life speaker and advocate, and yet I don't identify you as part of the quote movement. Now,
I consider that a compliment.
Yeah, but let me ask you this. I mean, you know, in politics you do need movements, and you have all kinds of people in every movement. I can assure you, whether it's politics or, you know, even if you look at a pastor will tell you that if I look through my pews, I've just got a wide range of people in the pews. What I want to ask you this is, the pro-life movement's goal is, or at least should be, very simple, right? Reducing the number of abortions and moving that number toward zero. Is it your view that the pro-life movement could be doing it better? They should be doing it differently? I'd just like your thoughts about how you think that this argument can be moved forward. It's now in America up to the people of the individual states to make decisions. And so it's going to be very important to be able to make the pro-life case as effectively as possible, person to person. So is the pro-life movement, in your view, not doing that? Should they be doing it better? And how?
When I say I consider it a compliment, let me clarify. I abhor the system of the pro-life movement. I think there's a split happening between those that understand that this is a spiritual battle, that it has to be tackled there, and then that first, and everything beneath that. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all of these children will be added unto you. Kick Jesus out of everything, then you've got your own wisdom, you've got all kinds of nonsense entering in, and I think that is what you are starting to see. So some of the most unbelievably incredible people I have ever met, most self-sacrificing, have been in this movement. But now I think it's becoming very much, in one way, an ego thing. You know, who's got the better story, who gets the biggest speaking fees, and then removing Jesus out of things to be more palatable to the masses. Now I understand you have to take in everything and see where you're speaking and what is appropriate. But I think you get my point. Now, as far as doing things better, I think it is a case. We are dealing with people, but this has now become, in my view, very much an industry, a pro-life industry. And that is the problem I have. Why have we forsaken the things in many ways, the things that really matter for our own gain? That's what I have a problem with. So, so many of the pregnancy centers doing all their stuff every day, people whose names you'll never know, one-on-one meeting those women, and dealing with them and helping them in crises. And then you hear this garbage argument from the left that, we've never done anything. Some lady the other day on Twitter, you don't give a damn about the children after they're born. I said, really? So there was no great outcry when I was born alive, and also no, you're not considering that I helped take care of the foster babies that came into our foster home, and that I've spent, because I was later adopted, but in foster care, yada yada. There's not time to get into all of that. Although I will have to honor my Penny, who took me in. She died in 2014. She's the reason I'm walking. Every doctor said I would never lift my head. She didn't and get out of a bed. She cared for me and 56 foster children as a single woman, and did not complain, and didn't have a YouTube channel. She didn't need accolades. So I don't know. I said a bunch there, but I think you get my drift.
Gianna, thank you for joining me. This has been just moving and eye-opening and very candid, and it's very you. So thanks for being on the podcast. Love to have you back sometime. And you are an amazing testament and an amazing story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm talking about the scene of Patrocolus' death, killed by Hector. And Patrocolus, even while dying, not only kind of taunts Hector, you're not really the one who killed me, but he goes on to say, basically, you're next. Your death is not far off. And in Greek, in the society of the Homeric epic, when someone makes a prophecy at death, it carries added credibility, added respect, and added power. So this is not just Patroclus saying something like, I wish you're going to be the next one after me, or even, as someone might say, in a kind of exchange of taunts or insults. It's Patroclus giving a kind of oracular prediction of Hector's death. But look how Hector responds. He says, why prophesy my death, Patroclus? Who knows? Achilles, son of Thetis, may go down first under my spear. So Hector, and you see here Homer highlighting the humanity of Hector. And by the humanity of Hector, what I really mean here is not that this is a very, quote, human response, but Hector doesn't know the future. Hector's like, well, you're saying I'm going to be killed next, but we're human. We don't know what's going to happen. It could be me, could be Achilles. So Hector, in this sense, is operating, as are most of the Homeric characters, inside the narrative. But notice the difference between Hector and Achilles. Achilles is told by his mother, who happens to be a goddess, you have two fates. You can fight and get glory, and you not may die, but you will die. Or you can go back and you can resume life in your old country, and you will live a long life, but nobody will have heard of you. And so with Achilles, it's a matter of choosing not among the... Hector is moving in the uncertainty of life, the way you and I are. We don't know what's going to come next, but Achilles is not. And so this is one important difference between Hector and Achilles. There's an earlier scene in Book 12 where Hector is approached by a soothsayer named Polydamas, who essentially tells Hector, don't go out and fight right now. The omens are not good. And again, Hector, you want me to obey birds, Polydamas? I don't care which way birds fly, right to the sunrise or left to the dusk. And he goes on to say, why should you be afraid of combat? And he goes, if I catch you telling this nonsense to anybody else, in other words, if I catch you holding back from battle or talking anybody else out of fighting, you will lose your life at the point of my spear. So again, Hector, he doesn't know. In fact, he's an unsuperstitious man, at least by the standards of the Homeric epic. So this is one key difference between Hector and Achilles. In a sense, Achilles is more than mortal, in the sense that he knows the future. He knows his future, and he's in a remarkable position of choosing his fate, his destiny. Hector, of course, is not. Now, I want to make the broader point here, and maybe I'll pick this up next time, that with Homer, you have this amazing phenomenon. Hector and Achilles are the two main characters of the Iliad. They are the two heroes of the Iliad, and obviously Achilles on the Greek side. Now, Homer is a Greek. And Hector is on the alien or the Trojan side, the enemy side. And you might expect that Homer would give humanity, all the kind of noble attributes of humanity, to Achilles, and make Hector kind of inhuman and cold and some kind of a savage figure. Not at all. It's the exact opposite. For Homer, Hector is the epitome of humanity. And there's something about Achilles that is both simultaneously less than human and more than human. We see that, of course, in the knowledge of the future, the factor I stressed today, but you also see it in other factors. You see it in the fact that Hector is a family man and Achilles is not. Hector has normal human motives for fighting. He would rather not, but he doesn't. He feels shame. He wants to protect his society. He knows the future of his country is at stake. He has a sense of filial duty, and that's why he fights. He's very different motives than Achilles, who is in a sense subtracted even from Greek society. He's isolated. His motives for fighting, both at the beginning, which is his own honor, and then later fighting for revenge, have really nothing to do with the Greeks. He doesn't really care about whether the Greeks win or lose. It's all about he needs to avenge Patrocolus. He's fighting in a sense as an isolated individual and not as Hector is, as a member of a flourishing human community.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and salemnow.com.